Life, they say, is a series of tests. But what if the ultimate test came not from an external force, but from someone you thought you knew, someone who held your entire future in their hands? And what if, to truly understand the world, they had to strip away everything they were to become someone utterly unrecognizable? This is the story of Arthur Sterling, a name synonymous with power, wealth, and an empire built on relentless strategy. Arthur was a titan, a man whose decisions swayed markets and shaped destinies. From his penthouse suites overlooking sprawling metropolises, he commanded respect, fear, and an almost mythical aura. But beneath the polished facade of the billionaire lay a mind perpetually at work, observing, calculating, rarely satisfied. He was a man who believed that time is the ultimate currency, and he spent his currency wisely, meticulously. Arthur had amassed an unthinkable fortune, but as the years etched deeper lines into his already stern face, a profound unease settled within him. He was 65, and the question of legacy, of who would inherit his colossal empire, weighed heavier than any business deal. He had one direct heir, his granddaughter, Sophia Hayes. Sophia was everything one would expect from the Sterling lineage: educated, beautiful, poised, and utterly immersed in the world of privilege. She moved with effortless grace through high society, fluent in the language of philanthropy and investment. Yet to Arthur she felt incomplete, sheltered, untested. He saw glimpses of potential, a nascent business acumen, a certain charm, but he also saw entitlement, a naivete about the harsh realities of the world, and a dependence on the safety net of his name. Sophia, despite her occasional musings that there's more to life than money, eventually seemed to embody the very ease he wished she understood the absence of. Arthur had watched her, always from a distance, never truly engaging on a personal level that might reveal his fears. He had tried subtle nudges, quiet observations, but nothing seemed to penetrate the protective bubble of her upbringing. He needed to know if she possessed the resilience, the integrity, the humanity required to not just manage his empire, but to lead it with a true sense of purpose. He needed to know if she could truly understand the world beyond her gilded cage. And then there was Maya Jenkins. Maya lived in a different universe, a world of hand-to-mouth survival, where every day was a testament to sheer willpower. She navigated the bustling, indifferent streets with a quiet dignity, her worn shoes treading a path far removed from Sophia's designer heels. Maya knew hardship intimately, but she refused to let it extinguish her inner light. She carried a profound empathy, a resourcefulness born of necessity, and an unwavering belief that there's always a way, even when it's hard. She worked tirelessly, cleaned, ran errands, took on any odd job that would put food on her table and a roof, however fragile, over her head. Her life was a constant struggle, yet her spirit remained unbowed, her kindness an almost defiant act in a world that often seemed to have forgotten it. Arthur, in his extensive network of surveillance and information, knew of Maya. He knew of her quiet acts of generosity, her unwavering moral compass, her existence as a stark contrast to the world he and Sophia inhabited.
Arthur Sterling, with his meticulous mind, began to weave a tapestry of observation, a grand experiment designed to peel back the layers of pretense and reveal the true character beneath. He would create a crucible, a trial by fire, not just for Sophia, but, as he would soon discover, for himself as well. He would step out of the shadows, not as the billionaire titan, but as the very antithesis of everything he was. He would become a phantom, a ghost of a man, to seek a truth that money could neither buy nor conceal. The stage was set, the unwitting players in place, and Arthur Sterling, the cunning architect, prepared to execute his most audacious and deeply personal strategy yet. The transformation was meticulous, agonizingly detailed. Arthur Sterling, the man who commanded thousands, shed his tailored suits for frayed, stained racks. His perfectly coiffed silver hair was matted and sparse, his skin artfully dirtied, his posture stooped and weak. A prosthetic hump gave him a perpetually hunched appearance, and his once piercing eyes were dulled by contact lenses that made them appear roomy and vacant. He adopted a new name, a name he once remembered from an old novel, a name of quiet endurance: Elias. One crisp autumn morning, Elias positioned himself on a park bench near the entrance of a high-end commercial district, a stone's throw from one of Sterling Enterprises' gleaming skyscrapers. This was Sophia's territory, her daily route. He looked utterly out of place, a derelict shadow against a backdrop of glass and steel. He clutched a tattered blanket around himself, shivering subtly, perfectly embodying the forgotten man. Sophia Hayes, a vision of polished elegance, emerged from a luxury car, her phone already pressed to her ear as she discussed the final details of a charity gala she was chairing. Her designer coat flowed around her, a splash of vibrant color against the muted cityscape. Her voice, confident and well-spoken, carried a slight, almost imperceptible air of detachment. She was focused, driven, exactly what Arthur had trained her to be in the boardroom. But today, he wasn't looking for a CEO, he was looking for a human being. As Sophia hurried past the bench, her gaze momentarily swept over Elias. She registered him, perhaps as an unfortunate fixture of the urban landscape, a fleeting blur of poverty in her periphery. Her eyes didn't linger. Her expression remained composed, slightly impatient, her thoughts clearly on her upcoming meeting. She paused only to retrieve a crisp $20 bill from her wallet, extending it without making eye contact, her voice soft but hurried. "Here, for whatever you need." It was a practiced gesture, born of obligation rather than genuine connection, a small transaction to alleviate a momentary prick of conscience. She didn't wait for a thank you, didn't spare another glance, her attention already back on her phone, her world. Elias watched her go, a flicker of something unreadable in his dulled eyes. Disappointment? Resignation? Or perhaps a quiet confirmation of what he had feared. He crumpled the $20 bill in his hand, its crispness a jarring contrast to his own fabricated squalor. A few moments later, Maya Jenkins appeared. She was walking, as always, her movements brisk but unhurried, a small worn bag clutched in her hand. She had just finished a cleaning shift and was on her way to an elderly woman's apartment to help with groceries. Maya's gaze was different. It wasn't a quick scan. It was a gentle observation, a subtle acknowledgement of every soul she passed. Her eyes met Elias's. There was no judgment, no pity in the harsh sense, but a deep, innate recognition of shared humanity.
She paused, a small frown creasing her brow. Elias looked truly unwell. His shivering seemed more pronounced now, the autumn chill biting deeper. Maya didn't have much to offer. Her own lunch, a simple sandwich wrapped in paper, was all she had for the next several hours. Yet, without a moment's hesitation, she knelt down beside him. Her voice was soft-spoken and earnest, a stark contrast to the city's cacophony. "Are you all right, sir? You look cold," she asked, her concern genuine. She didn't offer money because she understood that sometimes what people needed most wasn't currency, but connection. She carefully unwrapped her sandwich, its simple aroma a comfort. "It's not much, but please, take it. It's fresh." Elias looked at the sandwich, then at Maya's face. Her eyes held an honest worry, an unvarnished kindness that he hadn't seen directed at himself in decades, if ever. He took the sandwich, his hand trembling slightly, not from cold but from a tremor of profound surprise. He managed a weak nod, a small thank you, his voice raspy, unfamiliar even to his own ears. Maya smiled, a small, warm smile that seemed to defy the harshness of her own life. "It's no trouble," she said. "Please, try to keep warm. There's always a way, even when it's hard." She squeezed his arm gently, a fleeting touch of human warmth, before rising and continuing on her way, her silhouette fading into the bustling street. Elias watched her go, the sandwich held loosely in his hand. The crisp $20 bill from Sophia lay crumpled on the bench beside him, forgotten. This was the beginning. Arthur Sterling had set his test, and the answers were already starting to unfold, not just in the reactions of his granddaughter, but in the unexpected, luminous humanity of a complete stranger. He felt a stir within him, a sense of something unfamiliar, something that both intrigued and unsettled the calculating mind of the billionaire. The rules of his grand experiment had just shifted. Days turned into weeks, and Arthur, as Elias, settled into his chosen role, observing the rhythm of the city and the people who passed through it. He became a fixture, an overlooked statistic, but his mind remained as sharp as ever, now focused on the minute details of human interaction. Maya, true to her nature, became a consistent presence in Elias's life. Almost every day she would seek him out, checking if he had eaten, if he was warm enough. She'd bring him small offerings, a hot cup of tea, an extra blanket she'd found, a newspaper to read. She'd sit with him for a few minutes, asking about his day, listening intently to his raspy, fabricated tales of a long-lost family and a life that had slipped away. Elias, the billionaire, found himself confiding in Maya,
sharing half-truths that held the emotional weight of real experiences, and listening to her quiet wisdom, her resilience radiating like a gentle flame. He saw firsthand her resourcefulness, her ingenuity in finding ways to stretch her meager earnings, her profound empathy as she shared even the smallest comfort. Her catchphrase, "There's always a way, even when it's hard," was not just a saying, it was her life philosophy, enacted daily.
Arthur, through Elias, also continued his subtle observation of Sophia. Initially, she continued her pattern of hurried, almost robotic charitable gestures. She would occasionally leave an expensive coffee or another bill, but always with the same emotional distance. Arthur noticed the conflict growing within her, though. He'd orchestrate small incidents, a stumble, a feigned cough that turned into a hacking fit, just as Sophia was passing. Each time she would hesitate, a flicker of genuine concern warring with her ingrained dismissiveness. Her conversations on her phone became slightly less composed, her gaze occasionally drifting back to the beggar on the bench. Arthur heard snatches of her conversations, her friends commenting on the sad situation of the homeless in the district, subtly prompting her. He could almost hear Sophia's catchphrase, "There's more to life than money," eventually, echoing ironically in her own internal struggle. One particularly cold afternoon, Arthur orchestrated a more significant event. He collapsed dramatically on the pavement, letting out a convincing groan of pain. Passers-by hesitated, some looking away, others murmuring. Sophia, who was just leaving a meeting, saw him. This time the hesitation was longer, more profound. Her first instinct was to call her assistant, to have someone else handle it. But something shifted. Perhaps it was the sheer vulnerability of Elias, crumpled on the cold concrete. Perhaps it was the eyes of other strangers, subtly judging her. Perhaps, deep down, it was the burgeoning sense of empathy she was finally allowing herself to feel. She didn't call her assistant. Instead, she rushed over, kneeling beside him, her expensive coat pooling on the ground. "Are you all right? What happened?" Her voice was less detached, tinged with genuine alarm. She helped him sit up, her hands surprisingly gentle as she checked for injuries. She even offered him her own cashmere scarf, wrapping it around his neck without a second thought, the first truly selfless act he had witnessed from her. A small crowd had gathered, and Maya, drawn by the commotion, arrived, her face etched with worry. She immediately took charge, speaking to Sophia with quiet authority. "He needs warmth, ma'am, and maybe some hot soup." Sophia, flustered but responsive, found herself taking Maya's lead. Together, they helped Elias to a nearby cafe, Sophia paying her hot tea and soup, Maya making sure he ate slowly, carefully. It was an uncomfortable, awkward experience for Sophia, but Arthur noticed the subtle change. She wasn't just observing, she was engaging. She saw the gratitude in Elias's roomy eyes, the quiet strength in Maya's presence, and for the first time, she felt a connection to a world she had always kept at arm's length. As Elias, Arthur spent more time with Maya. He learned about her dream of opening a small community garden, a place where fresh produce could be shared and people could find solace in working the earth. He learned about her late mother, whose quiet acts of kindness had shaped Maya's own unwavering spirit. He realized that Maya, despite her limited personal resources and vulnerability to exploitation, possessed a wealth that far surpassed his own. He began to feel a profound respect, even an affection for her. Her humanity was a beacon, a stark contrast to the sterile transactional world he had always inhabited.
His observations of Sophia also deepened. He saw her trying, awkwardly at first, to bridge the gap. She started bringing Elias not just money, but books, sometimes even a hot meal she'd personally bought. She began to ask him questions, to listen to his fragmented stories, trying to piece together the life of this broken old man. She even sought out Maya, asking about local resources, genuinely wanting to help. The entitlement was slowly eroding, replaced by a nascent compassion. She was still Sophia, refined and educated, but a new current of empathy was beginning to flow through her. Arthur started to believe that his initial judgment might have been too harsh, too absolute. He was witnessing Sophia's struggle with self-doubt, her difficulty in truly understanding without experiencing, and slowly she was finding her way. He saw her fear of failure, her fear of disappointing him, manifesting as a drive for superficial perfection, a drive he himself had instilled. He realized that his test was not just for them, it was for him too. The cold, calculating Arthur Sterling was being profoundly changed by the warmth of Maya's kindness and the slow, arduous journey of his own granddaughter's awakening. He was learning that his greatest weakness, emotional detachment and deep-seated trust issues, were barriers he had built around himself,
and through Elias they were slowly crumbling. The lines between the instigator and the observed, the powerful and the vulnerable, had blurred, and Arthur Sterling found himself on the precipice of a revelation that would shake his meticulously constructed world to its very core. The city was gripped by an unseasonal cold snap. A brutal, icy wind howled through the streets, turning familiar corners into unforgiving tunnels. Arthur, as Elias, felt the bitter cold seep into his bones, even through the layers of his carefully constructed disguise. He had been on the streets longer than planned, the depth of his self-imposed immersion now pushing him to the very edge of his physical limits. He chose this moment for the final act of his play, a scenario designed to push Sophia to her absolute emotional and moral breaking point. He positioned himself in an alleyway just off Sophia's usual path, a place where he could be found but not easily seen. He let his body slump, his breathing becoming shallow, ragged. He feigned a severe cough, a truly frightening sound that rasped in the frigid air. He looked utterly destitute, truly at death's door. He was taking a dangerous gamble with his own health, but Arthur Sterling was never one to shy away from high stakes. Maya found him first. She had a premonition, a gnawing worry that Elias wouldn't survive this cold. She had wrapped her warmest, albeit thin, blanket around herself and brought the last of her emergency soup. Seeing him crumpled and shivering violently, her face contorted with genuine anguish. "Elias," she cried, her voice urgent, filled with fear. She knelt beside him, her small hands frantically trying to warm him, to get him to drink the soup. Her profound empathy and compassion shone through her terror. "You need help, real help." Just then, Sophia rushed into the alley. She had been searching for Elias all morning. A fleeting image from his earlier stories, a vague mention of an old beloved family watch, had triggered a memory. She had just found an antique watch repair shop that specialized in such pieces, and for the first time she had felt a deep personal desire to help him reclaim a piece of his lost past. She carried a small wrapped package, a new, warm scarf, a small, hearty meal, her offerings now born of genuine affection rather than obligation. But the sight that greeted her froze her to the spot. Elias was barely conscious, Maya distraught beside him.
"What happened?" Sophia gasped, her voice raw with alarm, her refined demeanor shattered, revealing pure, unadulterated fear. She saw the desperation in Maya's eyes, the fragility of Elias's life. This wasn't a problem to be solved with money. This was a life hanging by a thread. "He's freezing, Sophia," Maya pleaded, her voice cracking. "He needs a hospital. He needs warmth. I don't know what to do." Sophia's mind raced. Her first instinct, again, was to call 911, to let the professionals handle it. But the nearest hospital was a 15-minute drive, and Elias looked like he didn't have 15 minutes. She looked at the small, dark alley, the indifference of the passing city beyond. Then she looked at Elias's pale, drawn face, and at Maya's tear-filled eyes. A memory flashed. Her grandfather, Arthur, once telling her, "True leadership isn't about giving orders, Sophia. It's about making impossible choices when no one else will." A decision crystallized in her mind. Her penthouse apartment was only 2 blocks away. It was an unconventional, potentially risky move, but it was the fastest, most direct way to get him warm. "Maya, help me," Sophia commanded, her voice firm, resolute. "We're taking him to my apartment. It's close. We'll call a doctor from there." Together, the two women, one small and resilient, the other poised and determined, managed to half-carry, half-drag Elias out of the alley, their combined strength fueled by sheer will. Sophia flagged down a taxi, overriding the driver's hesitation with a steely gaze and a generous promise of payment. The ride was tense, Maya continuously talking to Elias, trying to keep him lucid, while Sophia barked instructions to her building's concierge out of the phone, demanding immediate medical attention and hot provisions upon their arrival. Finally, they reached Sophia's luxurious penthouse. As they laid Elias gently on a plush rug in front of a roaring fireplace, a private doctor Sophia had urgently summoned arrived. The doctor quickly began to assess Elias, his brow furrowed with concern. Maya, exhausted but relieved, watched over him, holding his frail hand. Sophia, meanwhile, paced, her mind reeling, her world having violently collided with another. She had made the impossible choice, acted on raw instinct and compassion, finally shedding the last vestiges of her sheltered upbringing. She realized with a jolt that she hadn't thought about money once, only about saving a life. It was then, as the doctor administered an IV drip and pronounced Elias stable but severely hypothermic, that Arthur decided the time was right. He slowly, deliberately opened his eyes, not with the dullness of Elias, but with the piercing, strategic gaze of Arthur Sterling. He looked first at Maya, then at Sophia. He reached up, his trembling fingers going to his face,
pulling away the subtle prosthetic that altered his nose, then carefully peeling back the thin, grimy layers of makeup and the contact lenses. The transformation in that moment was horrifyingly complete. The crumpled, elderly beggar dissolved before their eyes, replaced by the sharp, formidable face of Arthur Sterling. Sophia gasped, a choked sound of disbelief and betrayal. Grandfather? No, it can't be. Her world spun. The man she had pitied, helped, grown to care for, was the very man who controlled her destiny, the patriarch she had strived to impress. The sheer manipulation, the depth of the deception, was a punch to the gut. Maya, too, reeled back, her eyes wide with shock. The kind, frail Elias, the man she had shared her meager food with, was Arthur Sterling, the name whispered with awe and reverence across the city. Her strong moral compass was shaken, her trust momentarily shattered by the magnitude of the lie.
Arthur slowly sat up, a ghost of a weary smile touching his lips. His voice, now restored to his calm, measured authority, resonated in the stunned silence of the room. Yes, Sophia, it is I. He turned his gaze to Maya, a flicker of remorse crossing his face. And you, Maya, have shown me more humanity than I've witnessed in decades. Then he looked directly at Sophia, his eyes unwavering. This was a test, Sophia, a test of character, of empathy, of true leadership. And you passed. He paused, his gaze softening, then hardening again as he revealed the shocking truth. But it was also more than that. I watched you, Maya, and you, Sophia, and I realized something. My own wealth, my own legacy, had created a chasm, not just between us and the world, but within me. I feared you, Sophia, would never truly understand the weight of your position, the profound responsibility that comes with such power. I saw you, Maya, and your unwavering spirit, your compassion in the face of impossible odds, and I discovered that the greatest test of all was not for you, but for myself. He took a deep breath. The shocking truth is this. I believed money was the ultimate currency, the only measure of worth. I have spent my life building an empire, believing it was for my legacy, for you, Sophia. But I became a prisoner of my own making, detached, trusting no one. I became a man who could only see people as assets or liabilities. This experiment was my desperate attempt to find out if there was still a human being left inside Arthur Sterling. His voice, though still authoritative, held a vulnerability they had never heard before. I have betrayed your trust, both of you, and for that, I am truly sorry. But I have also learned that without empathy, without genuine connection, without understanding struggle, even the greatest fortune is utterly worthless. It is an empty vault. Sophia stood frozen, tears streaming down her face, a mixture of anger, hurt, but also a dawning, terrifying understanding. Maya, though still deeply shaken, looked at Arthur, seeing not just the ruthless billionaire, but the tired, vulnerable old man she had befriended, the man who had sought something profound that money could not buy. The truth had been revealed, shattering their worlds, and in its wake lay the raw, exposed landscape of family, deception, and the true cost of an empire. The immediate aftermath was fraught with a silence heavier than any words. Sophia, overwhelmed, eventually broke down, her anger and hurt pouring out in a torrent of accusations. How could he? How could he betray her like this? How could he play with her emotions, with the very fabric of their relationship? Arthur listened, his head bowed, offering no defense, only a profound sense of weary acceptance. Maya, in her quiet strength, became an unexpected bridge. Though shocked and deeply wounded by the deception, her innate compassion allowed her to see beyond the manipulation, to the pain and profound search that had driven Arthur. She spoke softly. "Sir, what you did, it hurt. But I saw the man you were pretending to be. I saw him learn, and I saw him realize that even in his wealth, there was a loneliness he couldn't escape." Her words, simple and earnest, cut through the tension,
reaching both Arthur and Sophia.
Over the next few days, the initial shot gave way to difficult, raw conversations. Arthur explained his motives in excruciating detail, acknowledging the ruthlessness of his method but defending the necessity of the outcome. He spoke of his own childhood, growing up in stark poverty before building his empire, and his fear that Sophia, sheltered by his wealth, would never truly understand the world or the responsibilities that came with her inheritance. He confessed his deep-seated trust issues, his tendency to be ruthless, and his ultimate fear of losing control, not just of his empire, but of his own humanity. He admitted that Maya, through her unwavering compassion and integrity, had provided an unexpected lesson, revealing a path to empathy he had long forgotten. Sophia, after days of wrestling with her emotions, began to process the enormity of what had transpired. The betrayal was immense, but so was the lesson. She looked back at her own initial dismissal of Elias, her superficial acts of charity, her focus on image over genuine connection. She saw her sheltered worldview, her dependence on family wealth, her fear of failure, all laid bare. Her grandfather's extreme measures, while deeply hurtful, had shattered her comfortable illusions and forced her to confront her true self. She realized that his catchphrase, "Time is the ultimate currency," wasn't just about business. It was about the time spent truly living, truly connecting. And her own mantra, "There's more to life than money," eventually, now held a far deeper, more painful, but ultimately liberating meaning. She had indeed found that there was more to life than money, and she had found it in the unlikeliest of places and circumstances. Arthur, seeing the genuine remorse and profound shift in Sophia, began to make amends. He knew that trust, once broken, takes time and effort to rebuild. He started by investing significantly in Maya's dream, not just with money, but with resources, guidance, and genuine support, helping her establish a beautiful community garden, a vibrant hub where people could grow food, share stories, and find connection. Maya, though still wary, accepted his help, understanding that true generosity was about more than just giving. It was about empowering. The garden became a testament to her spirit, a place where the seeds of hope were literally planted. Sophia, too, found her new purpose. Inspired by Maya's unwavering spirit and her own harsh awakening, she committed herself to a path of genuine social impact. She didn't just donate money, she dedicated her time, her intelligence, her extensive connections. She started a foundation, distinct from Sterling Enterprises, focused on sustainable community development and providing resources for the truly underprivileged. Maya became an invaluable advisor, her insights grounding Sophia's ambitious plans in real-world understanding. Sophia learned to harness her strengths, her business acumen, her connections, her persuasive charm, for a greater good, no longer driven by entitlement or fear, but by genuine empathy and a desire to build a more equitable world. Arthur Sterling, the cunning billionaire, had found his ultimate legacy. Not in the steel and glass towers he had built, but in the transformation of his granddaughter and the quiet dignity of a woman he had once seen as merely an underprivileged data point. He learned that true wealth isn't measured in balance sheets, but in the richness of human connection, the depth of compassion, and the unwavering integrity of spirit. He had risked everything, including his relationship with his own family, but in doing so, he had rediscovered his own humanity. He finally understood that time is the ultimate currency, and the most valuable investment was in people.
The story of Arthur, Sophia, and Maya became a powerful testament to the idea that labels, billionaire, underprivileged, entitled, are just surface deep. That true character is forged in the fires of adversity, often revealing itself in the most unexpected encounters. That sometimes, to truly see the world and yourself, you have to step entirely out of your own shoes, into the worn, uncomfortable ones of another. And that the most shocking truths are often the ones we reveal to ourselves when we dare to look beyond the illusions of status and into the heart of what it means to be truly human. If this story touched your heart, if it made you think about the connections we share, no matter our circumstances, please give this video a like. Share it with someone who needs to hear this message, and don't forget to subscribe to our channel for more stories that explore the incredible depths of human experience and the profound lessons life has to offer. Thank you for watching.